Welcome. Hey, my name is Dren, and today I thought I'd talk about revisions. If you're working as a composer in any kind of media, games, film, TV, ads, etc., you're probably going to have to do some revisions at some point. I think one of the keys to success in being a composer in these sort of fields is being able to work with somebody on the feedback that they give you, learning how to interpret it, learning how to file those pieces of feedback away in a way that becomes beneficial for everyone involved in the project. I'm going to talk about that a little bit and show an example of something that recently happened to me and ended up working out really great. I will say that I think usually the feedback, when you get it and you incorporate it into the larger idea of a project, I will say 99% of the time it ends up being better than it had been. There are exceptions, but I think most of the time when you're truly collaborating, working together and iterating on an idea, it ends up becoming better for the project. So here are a few things that I've come up with that work for me in working with collaborators, and maybe it'll work for you. Here's number one. So getting some examples. So if you've never worked with this person before, maybe they're a game designer, maybe they're a director, animator, artist, whoever your contact is for the project. If you've never worked with them before, you may not have a really clear idea about how that person likes to work. So before you start writing, before you start composing a note, I think it's a good idea to start exchanging ideas with, links to music. If they don't send you very much, because maybe it's the first time they've really worked with a composer, if they don't send you more than one idea, then maybe it's a good idea to try and offer a few more examples so you can try and get a larger idea, a better picture about what they're looking for. Once you narrow down the direction of the music, I find that it's helpful to come up with a small range of ideas, music sketches. So I find that it helps to maybe pick out a part of the project that really typifies the key emotion of what the project is about. Take that scene or that part of the game and maybe try 3 different sketches, 3 different quick sketches that you can come up with fairly quickly, maybe do them all in a day or two, and get that over to see if developer, director, whoever you're working with, is feeling one of those more than another. That can help you narrow things down. So it's a good way to kind of just get started, just get the ball rolling, throw out a few ideas and just say, hey, I just threw out these ideas together. Before I get further into one of these, let me know what you think. The third thing really is, once you get the feedback, it's really a good idea to start separating it. It's also a good idea to read it once and then wait a little bit and then come back and read it again. Never, ever respond to feedback immediately. That's really not a very good idea. Sometimes if I read the feedback at first glance, I often find that I misread it. I read into something that wasn't there. Maybe I read it early in the morning and I haven't had coffee and I just blurt over a couple words. It can make a big difference. So don't respond immediately to feedback. Take it all in, filter it. Usually you're going to find something that will be helpful, but you have to just create a space where you're open to it. And often this feedback is coming in text, in an email or in a chat or whatever it is, and it's hard to interpret because it's text. Maybe they didn't have time to nuance their communication as they would if you were having a conversation. People are just typing really fast and got to get on to the next thing. So you have to remember that too when you're getting that feedback. Just remember that ultimately you're both trying to make something great. So keep that in mind. I think that kind of helps you move forward. Just look at it as a creative challenge more than somebody is accosting your creativity. You're just there to try and help somebody realize their vision, and if you look at it as a creative challenge for yourself, often that just helps you move into the place that lets the ideas flow. And then, like I talked about, separating that feedback into different categories. So one, you have the small stuff. Small stuff are things like, maybe this person said, oh, I don't really like that ticky sound, and maybe they're referring to the hi-hat. I don't like the sound of that synthesizer. Now keep in mind, those things might just be a little mix issue, really small EQ or mix things. Tuck those away as little things I can fix later. That's category 1. And then you don't have to think about those very much. Just categorize them away. I can fix those later. I will get to them, But and you don't even have to really get into this in the feedback too much until you're at the very end and polishing it. And then number two are bigger issues. Is the music getting to the emotion that you both are trying to get to? Is it too big? Is it too small? Is it too intense? Is it not intense enough? Is it too fast, too slow? Getting the tempo and these things. Oftentimes, like in the project I'm doing, I would get the note that it needs to be more melancholy. So then you reach into your bag of tricks and find something that's more melancholy. For this particular project, I'll show you, bringing in cello. So we brought in some cello along with everything else, and that really helps move the needle on the melancholy. So during this kind of feedback, you want to relate to the type of emotional goal that you both have for this. Sometimes you receive new information at this stage, and the person that you've been interacting with all of a sudden has an aha moment, goes, oh yeah, well, this is really what I wanted to get to. You kind of got to that and I had forgotten about it, but this is sort of what I want to get to, and let's push on that emotion a little bit more. So it can be very beneficial for everyone. And sometimes people will maybe try to speak in musical terms to meet you halfway. Chances are, if they're not working in music or audio every single day and using the same terminology that we all use, that might not work so well. So you try and keep it on a level where you're just speaking about the emotions of the piece. So that leads me to the fourth little piece of advice here. Just try to avoid music speak with the people that you're collaborating with. Unless you're working with an engineer, like an audio engineer, or maybe another composer or a sound designer, somebody who understands a lot of these terms, an audio director, But if you're speaking with someone who, say, is a writer or a creative director or whatever it might be, they may not have that vocabulary. So you don't want to get into a discussion like that, because then you end up looking like some kind of know-it-all. Refocus on the emotion, on what you're trying to achieve emotionally, and that will usually give you success if you just focus on that. Okay, now let's look at my session, and we're going to talk about how this went from basically an acoustic guitar-based score into a piano score, and the reasons for that, and how I made some adjustments to get there. Here, let's look at Logic now. And here we are in this session. So let's take a look at this. Like I said, it was acoustic guitar based. I got a lot of examples from the director. Most of them were very acoustic guitar based, kind of moody pieces. That made me happy. I like using alternate tunings and using capos along with those tunings and just trying different things out like that. So I had this whole system worked out with a whole different alternate tuning. I think I got about 3 or 4 cues into this, and then we decided we did not have the bigger emotion that we were looking for from the guitar. I'll just play this first cue. I can't talk about the project yet. It will be announced pretty soon. So soon enough, I'll talk about whatever this is. But here's one of the cues. Okay, so there is an example of how this is kind of a moody, melancholy kind of score with guitar. And after doing 2 or 3 cues, it kind of became obvious that we weren't getting as much depth as we wanted. We weren't getting the emotional depth because of the range of the guitar. Guitar sounded good, but we need something with a bigger voice, so we went to piano, and we thought we'd try that first. So my approach with this was, I'll do the first 3 cues with piano instead of guitar, and then let's see how it sounds. So we all agreeing that it's moving in the right direction before doing anything else. So I had 3 cues. I wanted to get through this quickly to see if our piano idea was going to work. So here's the little work through, my little pipeline that I did to get the guitar parts into piano. So I turned the guitar parts into MIDI, and I'll show you how I did that. This part here, I'll just put this in the middle so we can hear it. So what I did was I took this and went to Melodyne. You can go to Melodyne and you can go ahead and transfer this. So I'm going to hit the play button and transfer, and you'll see, if you're not familiar with Melodyne, you'll see how this works. But it's a pretty fast way to do this. So hit transfer, and we're going to start this process. In a minute that it senses polyphony, I think. Yep, there it is. there's a mistake in the guitar. These were rough guitar parts. They were supposed to be final. Okay, so that is the end of that part. Now we're going to see it in Melodyne, and we can see all the parts. And now what I can do, save as MIDI. So that's pretty handy. All right, guitar MIDI for piano. So I've got that. Now all I have to do is import that. Okay, so I've got this part. Okay, so here I've got a piano. That's me playing it just now. And all right, here's our guitar MIDI for piano. I'm just going to drop it right in here, and you should be able to see it. Let's get rid of Melodyne. Now it's a bit messy, as you can see. So let's hear what it does. So clearly it's getting some mixed messages on the notes. The C is right. That F sharp is not right. You can hear, I think I killed this whole bottom line here because that just wasn't working at all. Melodyne will take some things and drop them into other weird octaves because of the overtones and whatnot. So I think I just deleted that whole line. Anyhow, I did clean it up. I won't go through the process of that. It didn't take very long because, as you can see, this is the one that I ended up using. I'm going to mute that piano, and this is the one that I did use. So you can hear this. So it was really a process. It took less than an hour to go through the guitar parts, put them into MIDI, put the MIDI into the piano track, and then clean it up. It was not very painful at all. So I'll just play how this piece sounds now. I took out the fretless bass, I took out the guitars, except for this effects guitar. So now the piece sounds like this. Then I had this melody line. It was a separate guitar part. I just wanted separation between that and this other main piano part. All right, so there you have it. It was a pretty easy change to make. And one thing that I can definitely say was this really did improve the score. I was so excited to record guitars. I have lots of them around and lots of microphones for acoustic guitars. I mean, you know, look at my last album, it's all guitars. So I was excited to do more guitar recording. It just wasn't a case. It wasn't working for the piece. Adding the piano in and getting the depth of what you feel just when you hit a piano note, a single piano note with a pedal tone and reverb. That was what we needed here. The guitar was just not quite getting us to that same depth. Hey, that's okay. It's going to be better for the piece, and I'm supporting the piece with more emotional depth than I was before with the guitar. A lot of the ideas I still used that I had from the beginning with the guitar, just was kind of transferring them to piano. I'm excited to tell everyone about this project as soon as it's announced, which I'll do here. For now, I can't talk about it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope this gave you some helpful tips about revisions in music. Thanks.